Good evening and welcome to Today. For today we have a very special and exclusive interview with the representative of the European Union who is here on the walking visits to Mongolia to get acquainted with the process of the preparations of Mongolia to host ASEM next year in 2016. And it is a great pleasure and honor of mine to introduce you Mr. Michael Matthiessen, senior official for ASEM in the European Union. And Mr. Matthiessen, thank you very much for coming to our studio.
Very happy to be here. It's great to be in Mongolia.
Right. And how do you feel about being here in Mongolia? Is it your first time?
It's my first time to Mongolia, definitely not the last one.
Right.
It has been a great experience. I have had some very good meetings with senior officials, including the foreign minister, the chief of staff of the president, the state secretary in the foreign ministry, and I have felt a lot of Mongolian hospitality. So I'm looking forward to come back.
Right. And everybody in Mongolia is very excited that our country has given the honor and privilege to host ASEM in 2016. However, we all know we have a long way to go with the preparations. And I understand the purpose of your walking visit here is to get familiarized to what is the status at the present moment, but if you could update on your observations.
Sure. It's always a challenge to organize a summit, whether it is, as it was last time, in Milan, Italy, or 2 years before in Vientiane, Laos. You may know that ASEM summits, they take place every 2 years, in one time in Asia, one time in Europe. So next time, Mongolia in July 2016. It's a great opportunity for Mongolia to have this summit. I don't know if our viewers know ASEM, but it's the Asia-Europe meeting. It was created in '96. The first summit took place in Bangkok, and 53 leaders from Asia and Europe will come here to Ulaanbaatar in July 2016. And I think that is a great event.
Right.
Your country is a wonderful country. Democracy, rule of law, freedom of speech, free elections, and 3 million hosts of Mongolia will kind of host leaders from 51 countries who represent 60% of the world's population, 60% of world trade, and 60% more or less of world GDP. Great opportunity for Mongolia.
Exactly. And since you also mentioned that some people don't know whole picture of what ASEM is about, I also would like to take this opportunity with this interview to ask for your in-depth information on different events which are scheduled within the framework of the ASEM, and not only the summit, the meeting of the top officials of the government and the parliament that take place during the ASEM, but also there are several events, and I would like to start with one of them.
Sure.
If we could talk about the ASEM People's Forum.
Yes. Let me say that ASEM is not an international organization. That's why it's maybe not so well known. Some people know APEC, which is Asia and North America, but ASEM was a bit the other leg between Asia. If you have one leg to North America, you also need a leg to Europe. Right. So that was why ASEM was created. There's no secretariat, but there are meetings at various levels. Highest level summit with leaders, foreign ministers, finance ministers, other ministers, and experts. But I think your question is very relevant because our viewers should know that ASEM is about dialogue and cooperation between Asia and Europe, and also the people of Asia and Europe. And that's why there will be many events leading up to the summit and in the margins of the summit. And one of the most important one is a civil society dialogue. Right. It's called the People's Forum, and it always takes place usually just before the summit. There was one in Vientiane, Laos, and there was one in Milan, Italy. And it's a great opportunity for the citizens of all the countries of Asia and Europe to meet and also to give recommendations to the leaders.
And actually, when we have high-level meetings in the country, people also want to be a part of it. And I believe ASEM, especially the People's Forum, is also the great opportunity for Mongolia's civil society to attend.
Yes.
And I'm sure you have been told that Mongolian civil society is very active.
Yes.
And do you know if there are any topics have been set for discussions for the next year?
I don't know so much about the civil society forum yet because we still have 1 year. But what I understand from the government representatives is that they have outsourced this to Mongolian NGOs.
Right.
So as it is run by civil society, by the people, I think it's for these organizations, civil society themselves, to come up with the theme, the program, and so on. So maybe it's still quite early days, but it's a very important element in ASEM, and I would also say the recommendations that they may come up with should be transmitted to the leaders.
Right. Okay. Next important event which takes place during ASEM is the business forum.
Yes.
And Mongolia has already hosted several meetings of the government officials with the attendance from the private sector and the academia on facilitation and improvement of the trade between Asia and Europe within the framework of the CAREC, among one of them. So if you could elaborate more on the business forum.
Sure. In the margins of ASEM Summit, the tradition has been until now to have 3 side events. One is the People's Forum, one is a parliamentary forum where parliamentarians from Asia and Europe will meet. Here I understand that it will be the Parliament of Mongolia who will organize that. And the third one is the Business Forum.
Right.
And I understand that the plans are that the Business Forum will take place kind of back to back with the summit, so that there can be interaction between business people and some of the leaders. And I think that is an excellent idea. So a lot of business people will come to Mongolia in connection with the ASEM Summit. Of course, the more we can do to improve business between Asia and Europe, the better it is. As you may know, in Europe for the moment we have a crisis, economic crisis, a lot of unemployment, and a lot of Europeans are looking to Asia for the future, because if we want to have growth and jobs in Europe, it's very much linked to Asia. So Asia-Europe business growth is very important.
Actually, I understand also that the reason why during the ASEM they hold business summit is to create a bridge between Europe and Asia in terms of trade and investment facilitation, and especially in the Asia, where we have developing countries and economies, European Union offers tremendous opportunity of the preferential tariffs on the imports. And do you think there will be more topics with the tangible impacts to be held for the next year?
Well, I should maybe say that in ASEM we have 3 pillars. There's a political pillar, there's an economic pillar, which also covers trade, and there's a third pillar, very important, social, cultural aspects. So the leaders are expected to discuss all 3 pillars. Obviously, to have a business forum just before the summit or in the margins of the summit will highlight that trade and business is important. I cannot tell you now exactly what will be the results. We still have 1 year to go.
Right.
But all this will be part of the agenda. You mentioned development. It's clear that things are going quite well in many countries in Asia. There's a very good economic development, but there's also a number of countries which are still developing countries.
Exactly.
And the European Union, as you may know, is still a very large, if not the largest, development aid supplier to Asia.
True.
So there's trade, but there's also development assistance. In the context of ASEM, we see each other as partners, and that's also important. It's a partnership between Asia and Europe.
Right. And next step, I would like to talk about the event for children and for adolescents. This is the Children's Forum.
I think it's called the Young People Forum.
Oh, okay, right. And you were mentioning that you attended one which was held in Milan.
Yes. This is organized, I mean, in addition to the 3 side forums I just mentioned, we have something called the Asia-Europe Foundation. It is located in Singapore, but it's a foundation with all the ASEM partners. We all contribute. I happen to be the governor for the EU in ASEF. And recently the ASEF director was here in Mongolia, and he signed an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding, with your foreign minister. ASEF will organize also a number of events which are very important for the citizens of Mongolia. One of them will be Model ASEM, which is to bring a lot of young people, students from Asia and Europe together, and then they play or they simulate the ASEM Summit.
Right.
And I attended it in Milan, so you saw young people, 20, 25 years old, playing the leaders from Asia and Europe. And this is a fantastic experience for them.
I bet.
And it's also creating some very good networks, and that we need that, networks between Asia and Europe. And I think some of those who were in Milan and some of those who will come to Ulaanbaatar may be our future leaders in Asia and Europe. And if they meet when they are 25 and they see how difficult it is to negotiate, they may learn lessons for the future.
Right. Since you have already mentioned about the ASEM Foundation and Mongolia being a member of ASEM since 2008, I would like to know what are the benefits out there for developing countries like Mongolia being a part of this network, being a part of this great community which connects two different continents with the different cultures but still with the same vision for the better future.
I think it's very important for a country like Mongolia to be in ASEM. It gives you a lot of contacts at various levels. As I said, summit meetings, foreign ministers, but also ministers of transport, education, culture, and so on and so forth. And if we talk about benefits for Mongolia, I was recently at the transport ministers meeting in Riga, Latvia, and the theme was connectivity.
Right.
And this was also a big theme in Milan, and I would expect probably also when we come here to Ulaanbaatar next July, connectivity, how to connect Asia and Europe. And for me and for the European Union, connectivity is not just transport, transport over land, the Trans-Mongolian Railway, over sea, in the air, but it's also people-to-people connectivity, exchange of students, university professors, researchers, tourism. Tourism is also very important. And I think Mongolia can learn from partners, and we also have a lot of expert meetings in various fields where Mongolia can benefit from what others have done. Sometimes we make mistakes in Europe, sometimes we make things the right way, and we can pass on what to do and what not to do.
Right. And are there any project opportunities for, let's say, Mongolian civil societies or the young generation or the young activists to benefit from ASEM Foundation?
Yes, they should go on the website, the asef.org, which is a very active website. They use all the social media. They are on Facebook, they're on Twitter, and so on. And in November this year, we will have for the first time a youth summit. One thing is Model ASEM.
Right.
This is something different. There will be the first youth summit in November in Luxembourg, and the young people of Mongolia should watch this website, asef.org, and it will open up for applications, and there will also be financing to participate in a youth summit in Luxembourg.
That is very great opportunity, and I hope our viewers also took a note of this, and we will show the website of the ASEM Foundation right on the screen. The next point I would like to talk with you about the top level meetings. And you have summit meeting of the state and government leaders. You have parliamentary meetings. During the ASEM they organize senior official meetings. And of course they will bring important dialogue and discussions on the emerging issues which are relevant for both continents. However, I also observed from the news on ASEM that because ASEM itself is not institutionalized mechanism like APEC, you also have some discussions going on how to improve it.
That's right.
And if you could also update us what has been done to make the discussions of ASEM more tangible, more directly relevant to the people of communities.
Yes, it's a very good point. I mean, ASEM is different from APEC. APEC is concentrating very much on the economic pillar. ASEM is all three pillars. We do not have a secretariat. So the work is done by the foreign ministers who are coordinating it, and when they meet in November in Luxembourg, they will be preparing the summit. We also have a system of coordinators, 2 coordinators on the European side, the EU institutions and another country, and you also have 2 coordinators on the Asian side. These coordinators try to help on the substance of ASEM meetings. ASEM, as I said before, is dialogue and cooperation, but you're right to point out that we need tangible results, tangible cooperation. There's a new initiative. It was taken very much by India in November 2013, what we call areas of tangible cooperations, where some countries in Europe and some countries in Asia go together to work on specific issues, waste management, disaster and relief. And we have a list of issues where some countries want to work with other countries. Personally, I think this is a good idea because you cannot do everything at 53.
Right, of course.
You know, when we started ASEM, we were 26. Now we are 53. It's a lot of leaders. It's a lot of ministers. So sometimes the way forward is probably that a smaller group of countries on both sides go together and work on specific issues and organize meetings, and that will give results.
And it's beautiful you have mentioned that ASEM has membership of 53 countries, because we are told that next year Mongolia will host all 53 countries, and it will be the very first time happening in the history of ASEM itself. What do you think about the preparation of Mongolia after spending few days here?
Well, first of all, I've noted that Mongolian people are very hospitable.
Right.
So I think
That's
I'm sure Mongolia will show a lot of hospitality to all the leaders. Of course, it's a challenge, but I'm sure that Mongolia, who has a very long and proud history, will be able to manage this summit. But I should not hide that there are challenges, but every country which organizes an ASEM summit has, challenges. Airport, hotels, meetings, security, press, traffic, catering. So a long list. But after my meetings here with my delegation over the last 3 days, I'm very hopeful that things will be in place. There's still 1 year to go. We met various, from the foreign minister, the state secretary, but also the different working groups. The government has established 6 working groups. We met with 4 of the working groups, and we have agreed to stay in touch. And the EU, the European Union, the 28 member states, plus Norway and Switzerland, are very keen to assist Mongolia to make sure that this summit will be a success. Our assistance will probably be in the form of advice, technical advice, based on our experience. We will welcome Mongolian experts to Europe, and some colleagues will come back here, and we will try to help as much as possible.
Right.
I should say that this summit is not just a summit, it is the 20th anniversary summit.
Exactly.
So it is a particular summit, and therefore I think all leaders, both from Asia and Europe, want this to be a success.
And of course, hosting 5,000 people from 53 nations of the top level, it's a big task, but also great opportunity for Mongolia in terms of the economic also boost as well. And we understand that.
No, I mean, that is the experience from all the other countries who have hosted an ASEM summit. It may only last a few days, but with 53 leaders, big delegations, maybe 1,000 journalists, maybe 1,000 business people, when they leave from here, they will bring back a lot of information and news from Mongolia. So it's a great opportunity for Mongolia to explain how hospitable you are, how many possibilities there are in this country. You are a very interesting geopolitical location. And I must say, probably a lot of people today don't know Mongolia, but they will know it after the ASEM summit. So all the investments, and I know it's a challenge that you may do, at the airport, on the roads, the hotels, the venue. This is an investment for the future, because after the summit, I am quite confident that there will be more people coming to Mongolia, journalists, tourists, business people, young people, based on their experience here.
Exactly. And actually, to give add on what you have said about the future possibilities being opened out by the ASEM is that Mongolia already has received a lot of options and offers to host different international events after ASEM, and it's indeed a great opportunity. And our time is running out, and I have my last question about the system, how it works in ASEM for the follow-up. ASEM is organized every 2 years with the different events we have specified during our interview. But what are the follow-up? What we Mongolians or the communities around in Asia and Europe can expect as a result of ASEM?
When there is a summit, there's usually a chair statement which is agreed between the leaders, and that will kind of list the achievements so far, but will also list what should be done in the future. And I don't rule out, because this next summit is a special one, it's 20th anniversary, that there may even be a separate kind of declaration on the future of ASEM. So I think there will be many issues which will be agreed among the leaders for follow-up. Now, there is no secretariat, but there are various ministerial meetings. As I said, when we don't have a summit, we have a foreign ministers meeting, we have finance ministers meeting, so there will be follow-up in various categories of ministerials. But there's also a chance for the people, thanks to citizens' initiatives, to do follow-up to the summit.
Right. And Matthiessen, I understand you will be back to Mongolia.
I'm sure I will,
and
yes.
I really, once again, thank you very much for such an in-depth information you have given to our viewers to understand the whole picture which ASEM can offer to Mongolia and what stage we are for the preparations. And I thank you very much for your time and for this interview.
Thank you, and good luck to Mongolia in organizing a great ASEM summit in July 2016.
Thank you very much, and I hope to welcome you back again to Mongolia and to my program.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Looking forward.